I'm just gonna give you a quick idea about how to record a violin. First of all, there's a couple things that you're gonna need to have. To get a good sound out of it, you're gonna need to have a fairly good violin, because I used to have just like a cheap one and it sort of sounded a little bit scratchy, and then I bought one that's a little bit more expensive and it sounds a little bit smoother and warmer. So that's going to go a long way with the sound you're going to get. But one of the most important things you're going to need to have is a condenser mic. And if you're going to have a condenser mic, then you're also going to need to have some sort of equipment that has what's called phantom power, and that's just what gives more power through the microphone or whatever. That's just the way the technology is. So they're a little bit expensive, and you have to buy a couple parts with the microphone to make the microphone work properly. But I'll show you what I got, and it's not too expensive anyway. And the last thing you're going to need is probably some audio editing software, and I'm going to show you that on the screen too, and a couple tricks on how to get a better sound out of what you already have. So you can actually make something sound better on the computer without actually putting all sorts of effects on it. So there's a fine line between changing the sound and enhancing what's already there. Okay, so hold on a second. I'm going to give you a little bit of a comparison between two microphones. This is the typical omnidirectional microphone or whatever. This is good for picking up stuff that's happening in a room, but the results that you're going to get with this microphone is that it's just going to sound like a basement recording or a garage recording. And even if you hold the instrument up really close to the microphone, it's still going to sound just not the greatest. Basically, the way to imagine how it would sound is like you're standing in the doorway of a room and you're listening to whoever's playing the music, but you're not in the room, and that's just what it'll kind of sound like. This condenser microphone will actually put you right into the room. How it works is that it has a diaphragm in it that's actually made of really, really thin gold, and it's because you need a metal, and you can get gold super thin, right? So it picks up really fine sounds, and you'll be able to hear a pin drop with this. It's just, you'll get a broad range of frequencies when you record with this condenser mic. So I'll show you how it works here in a second. You plug it in, and I'll show you what you have to plug it into to get the phantom power. So the condenser mic is plugged into the back of this device here. This is a tube preamp. It has phantom power on it. Yeah, like I said, the nice thing about this one is that it has this in here, which gives it a warmer sound. You can get like a vintage, warm tube amp sound out of it. And then the other wonderful thing about it is that it has the drive and the gain on it, so you can adjust the microphone to get, you can boost the volume, you can also increase the volume even before it goes into the mixer, and I'll show you that in a minute. So what you would do is you would test the microphone. You would test the microphone, and then you'd look on here. You wouldn't want the needle to go to the red line there, right? Because that would be, you'd get sort of a staticky, undesirable sound. It would just be overloaded. So if it's too quiet, then the needle's not going to move, and so you want it somewhere in the middle. But then if you put too much force into the microphone, you'll bury the needle again. So one thing I should invest in is a compressor, so that I can get quiet sounds and I can also get really loud sounds without adjusting the volume too much. But I don't have that right now. So this was about like $250 or something like that, and the microphone was about $220. But the difference between the old crappy mic that picks up the room and that's what makes a big difference. And lastly, I have the old Tascam. This is an old piece of equipment, but it does the job anyway, because what I can do is I got the microphone, or the preamp, plugged into line 4, which is this one here, I can adjust the volume of the signal going in. This is hooked up right into the computer, so I go from analog to digital. There's better ways to do it too. I can actually keep it all digital if I wanted to, but I just stick with what I got. This is the trim here, which will increase the, it'll boost the signal of the microphone. But I usually have to keep these pretty low, otherwise I bury the signal on the computer. There's the line in, so whatever. And another nice thing is that I can also pan the volume, which I don't really want to do anyway, because I want to do all the panning with the audio software. And then I got my EQ up here. I got my high, which this is the high, the low, and these are other ones that I don't really use. So that's what I use to go into the computer. And I can get 4 different channels going in simultaneously, but then I have to mix it before it goes on to one track, which would be on the computer. Okay, well this may look a little bit confusing at first, but what I'm going to show you is one violin track that was recorded and a second violin track that was recorded. And just like what you saw a few minutes ago, it has the same features like sliders and things like that, that you can adjust the panning, you can adjust the panning up here, and you can adjust the volume. And over here, this is the first violin track that was recorded, and you can see the audio sample. If these are too narrow, then it means that the signal was too weak and you didn't get a very good sound. If they're too big, then you're probably going to get a lot of static and stuff like that. This is the second violin track, and this line here is what I've drawn in to tell Cubase that I want the volume to get a little bit louder here, and then I want it to drop off close to the end. Yeah, so there's a lot of really neat things that Cubase has that can really enhance the sound of your recording. There's a whole bunch of other stuff on there that can really change the original sound so you won't even recognize it. But what I have here is just the standard basic EQ, and I'll show you. This is the, if there were no effects done to it, it would be a straight line straight across. But what I've done was I've increased the low end of the violin, and I also found just the right part where I wanted to increase just the mid-range just slightly. And then here's the high end over here. I wanted to reduce that to reduce the squeakiness of it. And so the results of both of the violins playing together kind of sounds like this.